Welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies, and welcome to yet a bit more Mount and Blade. So, we are attempting to start the revolution. In fact, it has begun. We have found Arya the Pearled One, the rightful, queen, I guess, of the Sarranid Empire. And so we've begun the revolution. We've already taken a couple of castles. We've convinced a total of one Sarranid lord to join the rebellion, and the rest of the combat lies on my shoulders with Arya the Pearled One, Arwa, whatever her name is, Pearly Lass, is in our party, counting on us to achieve victory. You can see we've already captured 7 enemy lords, which is pretty ridiculous. We've been doing quite a bit of fighting here, and in the middle of our revolution, in fact, almost the beginning of it, I really am not comfortable with being outnumbered all the time. I really have to do something about that, and I do indeed make some changes to my party, I guess, to deal with that, mostly putting points into the tactics skill. Now, when you're not outnumbered, tactics doesn't do much for you. But when you are, it helps you to be able to field as many units in the battle as the enemy army at any given time, which is really, really helpful. When you're severely outnumbered, you'll see scores of enemy units and not very many of your own. And needless to say, that can cause you some serious heartache and regret. Can we learn to shoot a little bit as well? Things can get very difficult for you when you're seriously outnumbered on the field. So tactics is a very useful skill to have if enemy armies are constantly larger than yours, which, the way I play the game, they usually are. Anyway, we're going to be hack and slashing our way to victory, as you do, now in I was going to say an open field battle, but actually, we happened to catch an enemy lord raiding one of our villages, so the local villagers are going to be there to support us. You see that short line of farmers who are making up the bulk of my infantry, as I've spec'd this army heavily into Sword Sisters right now. That composition is going to change a bit over the course of this campaign as my army grows and my number of Sword Sisters diminishes somewhat. We are going to take some losses over the course of this campaign. So this is, what's her name, Wife of Cakes? And she is specialized in horse archery, more archery than horse. I don't find all that much ability for the horse archery skill. I think I have 3 points put into it, and that's enough for me anymore, and I don't really need to have a lot of accuracy when I'm firing on the move, because I tend to be shooting into large groups of people or aiming from very close range when I'm on the horse. So it's sort of a waste to put more points into that skill. So I've put points into things like persuasion, and I'm starting to spec Wife of Cakes into being an intelligence character after putting somewhere in the area of 25, 26 points into strength, and maybe a dozen in agility total. Anyway, I'm happy with this character, especially, again, since I'm playing on minimum difficulty, and we're going to be having some fun. So, the idea here is we're supporting the rightful claimant to the throne, ourselves become her first vassal, so we are in service to the queen. We have an army of ladies, as you do, and we're trying to restore Arya the Pearled One to her rightful throne, whittling away the enemy piece by piece, and we catch a couple of enemy lords outside Tarama Castle. They have as usual, much larger armies than mine, and you can see I've started to recruit some of the locals from the villages that I've captured. And because this is a civil war, their morale will be not terrible as we face down their countrymen. However, try as I might, even with, I think, around 7 points in persuasion, when all was said and done, I was never able to convince another enemy lord to join our side. So I'm not sure exactly how that works, and I didn't get a whole lot of input. I'm also trying out a few new tactical positionings of my units. Getting your archers in just the right place can really make a huge difference. And because I have a large number of horse archers, they can be redeployed quickly, and that's one of the serious advantages to having horse archers. On top of that, the horse can soak up some damage, and if worse comes to worst, they're on fairly bulky chargers, so the sword sisters, is that what they're called? Can just straight up run down groups of infantry if their AI feels like keeping them moving the way they should. But speaking of keeping moving, we are harassing the enemy forces as you commonly see us do. And note, we're outnumbered 3-1, but on the field, our numbers are roughly equivalent to their own. So again, that is the tactics skill in play. If I didn't have any ranks in tactics in any of the people in my group, then I would probably be in a lot more of a sticky situation. I mean, I'm not saying things are going perfectly for me here, but heavy armor and a heavy horse can make up for some of my heavy-handed gameplay sometimes, and especially against the Sarranids, they use a lot of quick slashing weapons, or cutting weapons, which can be quite good against lightly armored enemies, but not quite so effective against people wearing the heaviest of armor, as I do with my MC. So my job here is to harass and distract the enemy forces, and right now I'm focusing on the sword, just because I want to play with this sword some. It's a fun one. It's a large two-handed sword. I can't remember if it's called a war sword or just a two-handed sword, but I was having a total blast with it. And you're going to see me get quite a bit into archery, again, horse archery, in the battles to come. And this campaign was massive. A huge number of battles against often overwhelming numbers. Not a lot of support from the one Sarranid lord that decided to come over, or Ottoman, if you want to put it in terms of the Wings of Glory mod. Only one lord came to my support in the rebellion, and he wasn't all that active. A good half the time he was returning to his fief to, I don't know, lick his wounds and pick grapes. He really didn't need to go back. Maybe he didn't bring enough snack packs for all the men, so they had to go ask his mom for more food. I don't know. But here you see us performing another part of our role on the battlefield. The Sarranids do start to spec into cavalry fairly heavily sometimes, and that can be a problem for an army that consists almost entirely of archers, as that cav will close quickly and cause some serious damage to my guys. And more than a few times I've been jumped by a lancer and taken down. You see me going into the options menu there, and actually I was in options for about 10 minutes as I was dealing with the girls, because, as I mentioned, I have a toddler and a 7-month-old baby, and both of them require my attention very frequently. So that's one of the advantages of playing a game like Mount & Blade. It's not an online multiplayer. Mom, I can actually pause it. I know. So I have just been really enjoying my time in this game, and I continue to find new ways to get invested in the story. There's so many different ways to play your character, and when it comes down to it, a lot of the combat starts to feel fairly similar. You're not going to be super useful if you're not on a horse, hence the name of the game, Mount and Blade. I've tried a little bit of on-foot fighting, and it's just hard for me to be as active in the battle, and especially to play this harassing role that works so well with the way the AI works, and also because of my army's composition of archers. You can see me drawing the enemy to run in the opposite direction of the incoming fire, so that their shields are facing away from my line of archers, and they drop rapidly because of that. Now, deciding when to switch over to the next group of incoming enemy units and start harassing them is an important decision to make. You don't want to leave too many enemy soldiers to rush your line of archers, because you could actually lose someone then, but you don't want to wait too long before engaging the next wave of enemy units, or you'll find yourself overwhelmed with too many targets and not enough time to distract them. And I really would wish that my guys would focus their fire a little bit sometimes. Sometimes it seems like the AI with this game is not fantastic, and when you tell people to hold ground especially, sometimes they can just face the wrong direction and not pay attention. But that happens to me in real life, so maybe it's realistic. We imprison a couple more enemy lords, and that's going to keep them from raising armies to fight against us, so it's good for the rebellion, and it's okay for you. The Ottoman Empire is not going to be happy with my actions, but we are reforming the Ottoman Empire, so that won't be a problem. We're also at war with, I think they're called Burgundy in this game. They're basically the French, and I think I talked about driving them back to their homes. And since I drove out a few of their armies, I didn't really have any problems with them up to the point where we finished our rebellion. Tarama Castle, unprotected by those two lords that came out to fight me as I wiped out their armies, and so we move in, siege the castle, and after a quick, bloody battle, take down its defenders. Now, one of the nice things about castle sieges is those garrison numbers can look really high, but you only have to win one battle. So you do have to fight upwards of 150 enemies a lot of those times, but they drop pretty quick when you have lots of archers with good armor in your party. So as Sarranid master archers and sword ladies, they work out just fine. Arwa, pleased with our progress, and looking great, by the way, after the Wings of Glory mod makes the female characters look a little bit less like creatures from the Black Abyss, and we're starting to make some progress. Battle after battle after battle was not shown to you as we carry on harassing and firing at the enemy. This action is intense, and we've been playing more and more with the first-person camera, both in bow use and in swordsmanship, just because of how immersive that can be. And yet, when you're running somebody down with a horse, sometimes it helps to jump into third person for a while. And so there's just so much going on in these battles. I have to make tactical decisions constantly while the battle's going on. I reposition my people occasionally using the advanced commands that I'm starting to get a handle on. You can command specific groups of units broken up between infantry, archers, and cavalry. You can tell them to do things like move to a location, attack, change the way that they attack, or tell them to hold their ground. And because we're dealing with archers mostly as our own forces, I'm telling them to hold their ground in a strategic location. Picking the spot for them to set up is also important. And then, once we get into the active phase of the combat, I have a lot of decisions to make really quickly, and we whittle down the enemy lords piece by piece. And we take more towns, we take more castles, we seize more fiefs, and we decide to whom they go. Now, because Arwa listens to me so much during this campaign, as I am her original champion, I could probably talk her into giving me, well, everything. But we do have one faithful, loyal lord who decided to come over to our side, and I try to make sure that he gets a good chunk of the land. And here we go, conquering. Here we go, wiping out the Ottomans and bringing the revolution to the furthest corners of the empire. And yet you still see we're at war with the those guys, the green dudes, the French, basically. And oh man, a few battles ago I got hit so hard by their crossbowmen. Their sharpshooters just absolutely deadly, and I still have PTSD from the sounds of those crossbows firing. They punch through my character's heavy armor like it's not even there to deal serious damage, and I'm not a fan. But I am hiring some of them for myself. If you can't beat them, join them. Here, another sort of a village battle, I suppose, as bandits have attacked this village. So I thought, oh, bandits, this will be no problem. I just got this line of master archers, so I'll sit back and watch them fight. You know what? Why don't I just dismount and observe things? And gosh, that seems like a lot of bandits. And they've already knocked out a few of the farmers. That's a lot of bandits. That's a whole lot of... That is not a small number of... Where do you get that many bandits? Where do you even get a forest around here? Where the hell did you guys come from? And they're like fire ants here pouring toward us, firing their frickin' crossbows as they advance. And our master archers and our sword ladies opening up on them continuously, and yet they had an incredible number of enemies in this match. I think somewhere in the area of 60 enemy units, all spawning at once, all moving up on our position, and all dealt with nicely. And yet, 50 of them. There we go. That was a bit more than I thought it would be. The grateful villagers offer us, I don't know, probably a few smoked hams and some dates, and I kindly decline, which also builds my right to rule. Maybe one day after this revolution, I'll go for something a little bit more ambitious. Yes, more ambitious than reconquering the Sarranid Empire. What could that be? Maybe we'll be happy with what we have. At the very least, we have those green frog legs to take care of. They're still at war with us, and they keep telling us to talk to their king if we're going to make peace with him. And their king is kind of a dick. So we're probably going to have to go imprison another 12.5 enemy lords again and conquer some more territory. In this case, for the Sarranids. Should we make Arwa the Pearled One the queen of the entire land? You know what? We took out the Ottomans. Who's next? Now, those green guys have been picking fights with us. Whoa! That's a lot of diplomatic changes. Yeah, sure, you all love me now that I've wiped out your kingdom. But I mean, you're still technically my prisoners. Anyway, a couple of achievements, and we've done it. Now it's time to win the peace, and to use some forceful negotiations with our hostile neighbors to the north. Catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.